Starting a new luxury brand is never an easy proposition. When Genesis was first incepted back in 2017, parent company Hyundai basically gave them a lot of tools to give them a head start. I mean, they started off with the really nice G80 and flagship G90 sedan. Now, two big sedans is great. However, what the basic foundation of a luxury brand is actually a compact sports sedan. So today, they've flown me and a bunch of other journalists to just outside of Portland, Maine, where we're testing this highly anticipated Genesis G70. This is the company's smaller BMW 3 Series competitor. So, has Genesis finally delivered a new sports sedan that can challenge the best from Germany and the Japanese? That's what we're here to find out. So the exterior design of any sports sedan is very important, and you can see Genesis definitely gave the G70 a very distinctive look on its own, with a couple of new styling elements here that they're introducing on this model that we haven't seen yet on the G90 or the G80 sedan. You can see the headlights, they are full LED, which are standard equipment on all G70s. You'll have an LED turn signal, LED low and high beam, and then an LED daytime running lights. Now the daytime running lights actually have a new kind of 4-point shape here, which is definitely much more distinctive versus just the standard LED that the G90 gave you in their bigger flagship sedans. You can see the grille on this particular one is also unique because it's the Sport. It's kind of got a black chrome finish with this 6-point grille. It's kind of got like a textured mesh look. I think it looks very, very attractive. Also, being the Sport model, the headlights kind of give you a copper tint to it to give this car a little bit more of a unique look. Now, low and wide and athletic elegance was their kind of goal, their design theme with this car. I think they've definitely achieved that. The car definitely has a low, wide stance. This rides on the Kia Stinger platform that you guys know and love, that I personally loved. And basically what Genesis did is they shortened it. They made it a little bit stiffer, a little bit lighter. Now, this particular one, being the Sport, has its own unique set of wheels. These are the 19-inch wheels wearing Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. These are one of the best tires on the market. Brembo brakes are included on the Sport 2-liter model. If you guys want Brembos on the other 2 liters, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go to the 3.3 V6. The rotors themselves are only almost 14 inches in diameter, so an inch bigger than the standard model. I also like this little boomerang shaped accent piece here, which is actually functional. It creates an air curtain that starts at the front, comes out the back to kind of aid with the overall aerodynamics. Now, its wheelbase at 111 inches long is about 3 inches shorter than the Stinger, and at about 184 inches long, it's about 6 inches shorter than the Stinger. This is basically the same size as a Mercedes-Benz C-Class, a little bit longer than a BMW 3 Series, and the same size as a Lexus IS, a little bit shorter than an Audi A4. Now at the back, the design again is also equally distinctive. I see a lot of design characters here from Mercedes, especially in the taillight. You have full LED taillights. I like the trunk lid here that kind of has a rear spoiler kind of integrated into the actual back. You have the Genesis wing badge, and then the Sport model gives you its own unique exhaust, a Sport Tune exhaust. All the 2.0 trims will give you the side exhaust here, whereas the V6 models, which I'll show you in a different review, will have dual outlet tips. The exhaust definitely sounds a little bit better. I'll let you hear it for a second. But as you guys heard, the exhaust definitely sounds a little bit more aggressive for the Sport. Let's take a look at the trunk capacity here. Now, the hands-free smart trunk is standard on every equipment, every trim, so you have to just come back here with the key fob. It'll open up for you. The trunk measures a pretty small 10.8 cubic feet of space. This is definitely smaller than the rest of the segment, and it's about literally half the size of what you get in the Kia Stinger because it's a hatchback, but it's still pretty usable. It's a little bit on the shallower end. Underneath here, there's actually no spare tire. You just get a fix-a-flat kit, and then the actual battery of the car lives underneath here to kind of aid with that, you know, near 50-50 weight distribution. So Genesis models come very well equipped, and this one's no different. It comes standard with the company's smart key access system with push button start. I've shown you this key fob before on other Genesis products. It's a nice sturdy key, a little bit on the large side, but you can see here no remote start on the fob. You have to go into the Genesis apps to do that, but this one being the manual does not have that. So like all the other cars with this feature, just kind of walk up to it. You'll see there's a button on the door handle of the G70. Just tap that button. It locks the door for you. To unlock it, there's no sensor on the back. You have to tap the button again, and that unlocks the door for you. Now, looking at the interior, I mean, Genesis has done a really good job with differentiating this from the corporate twin of this car, the Kia Stinger. The interior definitely looks pretty premium. This particular model is unique to the manual transmission. It only comes in one version, the Sport. These seats, they are perforated. They're leatherette. These aren't the actual real leather seats, but they're heated and cooled. It comes with like a 14-way power adjustment with a power thigh extender, which is nice. You have 4-way lumbar, which is good. The seats are comfortable. Really like the seats. I'll show you guys a different interior when I do the V6 review, which you'll see in a different video. But overall, the Sport manual transmission makes a great first impression, and it comes pretty well equipped. Now, getting inside, you'll notice that the interior definitely has a lower feeling. This sits much lower than all the other Genesis models that I've tested. And then when you shut the door, it sounds pretty solid. There's a water bottle in the door handle, which is what you heard earlier. Now, if you want to start the vehicle up, you can see here it comes with a lovely manual. Put the clutch in and then push the button here to fire up the engine. So you can see here the gauges, they're pretty similar to the last Stinger that I showed you guys. Slightly different fonts, slightly different colors, but there's a 7-inch LCD you can see right there that is interchangeable. Most of the models, or all the models, will come with that LCD. No full LCD though. And then the rest of this interior, you can see it's really nice. There's some faux stitching on this upper part of the dashboard with a soft touch graining material. There's actual stitching with some leatherette material that kind of goes across this lower part of the dash. It's a very driver-focused, driver-centric dash, which is nice. You can see here, unlike the other Genesis models, you have a tablet-style screen that sticks up. It's an 8-inch screen. This is standard on all the models, which definitely makes this interior look a lot more modern. The door panels, you can see, they're also soft touch with some real aluminum trim. The windows are one-touch automatic for all four, which is nice. You can see my tester has 2-person memory, which is included on the Sport manual transmission model. The steering wheel, it's also a power tilt telescoping, which is nice. They took that off the higher trim level. And the steering wheel itself, it's pretty nice. It's got all your typical buttons. This model, being the manual, does not come with the adaptive smart cruise control. The manual is the only model that does not get that. You do still get the active lane keep function and blind spot, which you can see the buttons are down there. The head unit, let's talk a little about the head unit. First of all, I'm gonna put the vehicle in reverse. We're gonna go into and show you the backup camera. It's a pretty standard backup camera with trajectory. No parking sensors or whatnot. Genesis does offer a 360 camera, which I'll show you guys on the higher trims of this car. This head unit is pretty much the only thing that's going to remind me a lot of a Hyundai product. It's basically the same, you know, Hyundai Blue Link telematics that I've shown you guys. This is the home screen here. You can see here you can go to your audio system. The layout's pretty similar. This model does not come with embedded factory navigation. It's not available on the Sport manual transmission because Genesis assumes you're just going to use Apple CarPlay and then use the Apple Map function, which is, you know, what a lot of people are going to do. Eventually, when we have the iOS 12 update, you can add Waze and Google Map to this interface. This interface, it works fine. It's quick. You know, it gets the job done. It also looks pretty nice. Down here, you can see all your usual buttons, shortcut buttons. You have a tuning knob, radio knob with there, dual zone climate control, which is standard. Love the cooled seats, which the cooled seats, by the way, work very well. They get very cold, which is nice. Down here, higher end models will have a wireless charging pad, but there's a USB port. There's a little cover here that closes. That'll close your phone, although I find that my iPhone 10 doesn't fit in there with the ability to close the lid when it's plugged in. The manual transmission, let's talk a little about that really quick, because the shifter action, I wish it was a little bit shorter. It also feels a little bit rubbery. I found that it was difficult to go into the gates if I was in a hurry. Reverse is accessed all the way over here next to first gear. The shifter definitely could use some work. I was hoping it'd be a little bit of a shorter throw shifter. The clutch also is very long, so I found myself sitting closer. It also engages right at the end of the travel, so we'll go into the test drive later on. Down here you can see this turns your stability control button, or stability control off. Your drive modes are here. The Sport model only comes with 4 drive modes, 5 if you guys go go for the automatic. I'll show you guys all the drive modes in the test drive. The manual model also is the only one that gives you a traditional handbrake, which is nice. Genesis kind of shows you that they are thinking and catering to enthusiasts, that you have a traditional handbrake instead of an electronic one. The lid here doesn't adjust, but it does come with a USB. It's pretty nicely sized. It's got a nice soft touch armrest here. Above you, no sunroof. Genesis is not including a sunroof, unfortunately, on the manual model, which is kind of sad. But over here, there is a nice sized glove box that is damped. It's lined with felt. The seats, as I said, are pretty comfortable. I like that they're heated and cooled. I wish that they were real leather, but again, you can get different seats that I'll show you guys in a different model. But overall, the interior of the Sport manual is really nice, and it's nice that Genesis didn't kind of, shaft you by making you deal with a complete base model if you guys want to go for a stick shift. So being that this is a compact sports sedan, you don't buy these for a big back seat. And compared to the Stinger, as I said, the wheelbase has shrunken by 3 inches, and you're definitely noticing the shrunken amount of rear seat legroom. This is relatively tight. I'm only 5'7". This is where I have the seat to drive. Now there is good foot space underneath the front seats, but you can see here, it feels pretty tight. I really have trouble kind of crossing my legs back here, so I can do it, but it definitely feels a little bit tight. Now, in terms of the actual seat comfort, there's actually good thigh support. The leatherette feels pretty nice in this vehicle. You do have an armrest that folds down to give you these cup holders here, but in terms of features, it's kind of lacking in the Sport model. I mean, you have a soft touch door panel material with some real aluminum trim, which is nice. Windows are one touch automatic in the rear as well. You do have one USB charging port, but no rear seat vents, no heated rear seats, and then no power sunshades. I'll have to get into the higher trim versions and see if they give you a little bit more features. But overall, you don't buy this for a big back seat. You can fit 2 people in here in a pinch. So with any sports sedan, what's going on underneath the hood is an important factor. Now, first of all, I want to talk about the hood because the hood is made of lightweight aluminum. I believe the Kia Stinger does not have an aluminum hood, so that's kind of where Genesis is trying to differentiate themselves a little bit from that platform. Now, just like the Stinger, you can take this car in 2 different engine configurations. I'm going to focus primarily on the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. You can see this is the base motor. There's a lot of space underneath here, so there's plenty of room for that V6 that we'll talk about in a separate video. Now, because this one is the Sport with the 6-speed manual, it is rated at more power, 255 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. That's 3 more horsepower than what you get with the 8-speed automatic. This particular combination with rear-wheel drive, which is standard on this manual transmission model, is rated at 18 in the city and 28 on the highway. Its fuel economy is definitely down compared to the automatic, which is rated at 22 in the city and 30 on the highway. Thankfully, you can put regular gas in the 2-liter, as the premium is only recommended. Now, this one, as it sits, weighs just under 3,600 pounds, so it's 100 pounds lighter than the Stinger. This one is rear-wheel drive. It's got that limited slip differential. You guys have been dying to know how the manual transmission 2-liter drives, so let's get out on the road and see how it performs. All right, so Genesis has definitely been keeping us waiting for a long time. I finally got my hands on the 2-liter manual, so let's try a quick acceleration run and see if this was really worth the wait. I turned off the traction control. So the manual definitely is going to satisfy a lot of enthusiasts. I mean, the Japanese brands just don't offer a stick anymore, so if you guys want a manual transmission sports sedan, compact one, your choices are the BMW 3 Series, the Audi A4, and now this. And you know, I haven't driven the manual in those cars in a while, so I need to kind of train my brain to what my expectations are for a manual transmission in this segment. And you know, for a manual transmission, this is pretty good. The throws could be a little bit shorter. They feel pretty notchy. The clutch is probably the most difficult aspect of this car. I stalled it twice when I first got into it, which was horribly embarrassing. So this 2-liter engine has pretty good mid-range power. I mean, it's typical of a turbo 4. However, it definitely has a sharp cutoff point past 6,000 RPM. The Redline's at 6,500, so I was finding myself short shifting at 6 because there's really just nobody home after 6,000, which can be disappointing, but The rest of the car, the way it feels, you know, if you guys have driven the new Stinger, this kind of takes what I liked about that and elevates it. The suspension tuning definitely feels stiffer in this car. I have it in its sports setting. Now, this car is not available with the adaptive variable suspension, so its suspension dampers are fixed. And in sport mode, it really just affects the steering response and the throttle response. Now, the steering in this car is really good. It's really quick. It is, you know, sharp, it's direct, it feels really great, it feels confidence inspiring, which is good. This is not as sporty as the Giulia 2-liter that I last drove, which I haven't had a chance to actually show you guys a full review, but you know, I've shown you a full review on the Quadrifoglio. This is definitely like a nice middle ground. I feel like this feels a lot like an Audi A4, but just a little bit more balanced, a little bit sportier, because this is an actual rear drive chassis as opposed to, you know, a front drive chassis like on an Audi. Now, I'm gonna actually take this car on a track later today, but this is just the street driving portion, which is where most of you are going to be driving this thing anyways. I imagine a lot of G70 owners aren't gonna take it to the track, but you know, in terms of drivability, it's so easy to drive this car. Visibility is great, you can see out of the front good. The hood definitely is a lot taller than I anticipated. This car kind of feels very wide, which I wasn't expecting that. But in Genesis fashion, it comes standard with all their driver assistance tech. You have, you know, adaptive forward collision warning. It has automatic braking. It has the stop and go function, the adaptive cruise control. It has active lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring with their cross traffic alarm. I mean, it has all that is standard, which is typically not the case in the luxury segment. Usually, all the prestigious brands, they make you charge, or they charge you extra for those features, which is kind of an insult. But I mean, overall, this is definitely a great value, and it also is a great driving car. This, to me, feels more dynamic versus, you know, what you're going to find in all the Japanese offerings. So just because I can, I want to try another acceleration run real quick. I'm going to do a little bit more of an aggressive clutch dump. No chirping into second. It doesn't have enough power to do that. But it feels like this car gets to 60 in around 6 seconds, maybe 6.2. It depends on how well you shift, of course. Now, this car, being that it's the sport trim, it has a sport exhaust, which I don't really hear the exhaust. What I do hear a lot of is the active engine sound noise, which you can change here. This is with the car floored in third. Push this, and it's a pretty noticeable difference. So if you guys like it or not, you know, you're gonna have to decide that on your own. I think it sounds decent, but Genesis is kind of funneling in sound through the speakers. They're amplifying it like everyone else. It's not bad, but it is something that you can turn off if you guys, you know, don't like that function. But I mean, the rest of the driving dynamics, the seats, I find them to be pretty comfortable. The cooled seats in this car work extremely well. I actually had to turn them down because on high, they're just way too cold for me. But, you know, aside from the great visibility, the good space in here, the driver-focused cabin, you know, the driving dynamics of this car are great. The manual transmission, you know, is a little bit disappointing in the fact that I expected it to be a little bit, you know, more enthusiastic. It doesn't like being hurried. If I found that I was trying to speed through my shifting, I would crunch a gear. The clutch also is a little vague. I stalled it twice, and it's a little bit of a longer travel. So is this car like, you know, a BMW M3 sedan? Kind of. No, it's not. I mean, the fact that they only offer on the 2-liter turbo is kind of disappointing. Genesis just said there wouldn't be a higher take rate for the V6, but I mean, you have to admire Genesis for, you know, offering this combination in this car and offering it with most of the features that enthusiasts are going to look for in this segment. All right, so I know a lot of Genesis owners probably won't take their car to the track, but Genesis has set up this autocross course, and I'm in the manual again, so we're going to see how this feels out on a little handling course, shall we? Now, this is actually a go-kart track, so I've never been on it. I'm going to take it easy. I'm not a race car driver, as I said, guys. I've left the traction control off, but the stability control is on. Great. All right, this car definitely handles really nicely. The suspension feels a lot stiffer than the Stinger. I can feel the stability control kind of kicking in to save my ass, which is good. They've set up these cones here to keep you from crashing so you can slow down a little. The brakes feel great, steering is good. My foot's to the floor. This car could definitely use a little more power. Good brakes though. foots to the floor, come on. Oh. Oh God. I imagine a lot of owners aren't going to do this to their car, but this car can handle it. The suspension has been tuned much better for track work. Come on. Oh. All right, so that was the 2.0T. A lot of fun. You can practically leave the transmission into second gear. So at the end of the day, you have to admire Genesis for offering an option for the enthusiast driver. After spending the whole day with this Sport 2.0T rear drive with that 6-speed manual, the G70 is truly an impressive new compact sports sedan that we honestly haven't seen yet hit the market in the last couple of years. As you guys saw from the video, not only is it a good looking car, it's also extremely comfortable, relatively spacious on the inside, full of tech, and in typical parent company Hyundai fashion, it's got a lot of strong value associated. Even though a lot of owners may not take it to the track, you saw from the video that this car is very capable on a road course, a tight road course where you can really start throwing it around and really feel that rear wheel drive dynamic. So if you guys are in the market for a car like this, what's it going to cost? Well, this video is going to primarily focus, as you guys know, on the 4-cylinder. Be sure to watch my 3.3 twin turbo V6 review that will be uploaded at the same time. The G70 Genesis didn't have full pricing yet available. However, they're saying it's going to start at $35,000 for a base model in that mid $35,000 range. Now, this one again, no full pricing available, but as you guys saw from the features list, it is missing things like a sunroof, navigation, real leather interior. I'd estimate this one is probably just around $40,000, maybe a tick under, a tick over $40,000. That's how much I would expect to pay. I'll be sure to include in the link in the description below exactly what the actual price is once Genesis releases it. But if you guys are in the market for a rear-wheel drive sports sedan with a 6-speed manual, you don't have to no longer pick a German option like the BMW or the Audi. You should really head over to your local Genesis dealer and check out the Sport with a manual transmission. But I hope you guys have also enjoyed my full review on the Genesis G70 2-liter manual transmission. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.